The OD representative to the recent Case Administration Interagency Task Force on Juvenile Mental Health during discussion said that the department was doing its duty and trying to evaluate or identify kids with these kinds of problems early. I don't recall the exact recommendations of the task force in the end, but that was obviously some discussion. So now, with this having occurred, what more do you think needs to happen relative to identifying, serious mental health problems, so that this kind of thing can be headed off?
I don't have the exact recommendations memorized either, but I would support the fact that there has to be a continued review and look at the recommendations that were brought forward to see if they're still applicable or what does need to change or not change based upon those recommendations to incorporate into the prevention planning that should occur. And I think part of it, when you step back and reflect upon, although I think Connecticut did many, many things exactly the way that they were supposed to do and prevented a plan, the reality still comes back to there's opportunity for continuous growth and improvement. So as you reflect upon the tragedy, what can we learn from that to further support the fact that there is a way perhaps to do something better to further protect kids at school? And I think that's really where it goes back to, despite all the different task forces that have ultimately occurred, the different advisory groups, we need to sit down and look at it systemically and systematically to determine what we can to do and improve for the future, but at the same time, to go where the Attorney General went, respect the local control within that school or school district, because they're not widgets, they are kids. Every school district is different. We have different typology across the state. We have different resources that are available within the school or school community based upon their interaction with the type of law enforcement that is within that school community. That's where we would go back and say, bring them all to the table in a very judicious way. The law requires that you file a plan once every 3 years. I would argue this should be an ongoing conversation within your school and school community readily, not an event that occurs every 3 years. You should have a standing committee for school safety within every school community across the state of Ohio that incorporates emergency responders, law enforcement officials, school personnel, mental health, and county resources in cooperation with other support groups that we can identify to make this an iterative, ongoing process. It is not an event. It is not something you should do every 3 years. It should be an ongoing conversation with your parents and your school community at large every single day to talk about you keep kids safe at school.
General, yesterday the Blade...
Okay, wait. We'll go here.
Thank you. Yesterday the Blade Center reported to schools in Northwest Ohio and Southeast Michigan, the elementary schools. And in many cases they were able to either walk through an unlocked front door or buzz through a locked door before they were asked any questions. What good does a school safety plan do if it's not enforced?
Well, I think you're dealing with several different things. You're dealing with the quality of the safety plan. And I will be very candid. We have received, we have on file 4,300,
nearly 4,900 right now.
Nearly 4,900 plans. There's nothing in the law that was written by the legislature really about the quality of these plans. Is that right? There's nothing.
That's correct. That's correct.
And so, and we don't have any authority to go to tell a school this is a bad plan. But I think what we want to do, one of the things we want to do is, with this task force that we have put together, to devise a way and help. I know the department will help. To figure out to help these schools, if they have a plan that's not a very thorough plan, to develop that plan. I mean, this is not beating up schools for not having a good plan. That didn't do any good. What we're trying to do is get all the schools to have good plans, and then execute the plans. Practice the plan. Practice what is written. So part of what our job is, or part of what the state has to do, all of us, is figure out how to get all the schools have plans that are very, very good plans. Now, to that's step one. Step two, you have to follow the plan. Now, I couldn't tell you on those schools, I don't know what schools they are, if they were following their plan, if they weren't following their plan. Maybe that's what their plan said. I don't know. And so you get all the questions. We cannot. unless we barricade every school in this country, assure that there's never going to be a problem. But what we can do, and what it's our moral obligation to do as citizens and as elected officials, is to minimize the risk, increase our odds of survival, of the kids surviving, and decrease the odds of something happening. We can do that. That is within our power to do that, because we know what the best practices are, we know what can be done, and we should do those things.